Now, I've narrowed it down to a problem with the solenoid, and what I've done is I've hooked up my voltmeter to the output side of the solenoid here, and if I hit the key to the start position, it's getting nothing. So that tells me that something is wrong with this rusty, crusty solenoid, and no juice is exiting it. And maybe I'll just put my wire here on the key switch input side, because I know that power is getting there from the key, because I can hear it engaging. But let's see, it should go to 12 volts when yeah, it's getting 12 volts in, but nothing is exiting the side here, the output terminal. So what I'm going to try to do is take this thing out, and you can see how rusty all this crap is. It could be a ground issue. It could be. That is possible. So maybe what I'll do again is I'll take out the 2 bolts that hold the solenoid on here and just clean everything up and try to put it back together again, and we'll see what happens. But it most likely could be a ground problem, but I don't think that the solenoid would even click if there was a bad ground. I don't think it would. I think that it would just be dead. So once it clicks and the plunger engages, that should be putting the power to the output side, and that's not happening. So it very well could be an internal problem with that solenoid. And I mean, look how rusty and crappy it is. It wouldn't shock me at all if that's the case. And being outside, no hood, etc., water could easily have gotten on that bolt and dripped in there and destroyed something internal to it. So I think that's what we'll do. And I may have to take off the gas tank or something to get to it easier. Not sure, but it's in kind of a hairy location. We'll try to get these bolts out. There's not much room between the tire, but we'll see what we can do. All right, so I got the solenoid out, and look how nasty this thing is. I mean, geez. I got a spare one inside I'll throw on there. But so anyways, there's this wire coming off the lug here, which is how I like to do it. And I notice there's a fuse on here. And I notice that up here there's a red wire that's just flapping in the breeze right here, not attached to anything. And it turns out that that's what that wire is. And it also turns out that the fuse is blown, and I can see it with my eyes. Maybe you can't see it with the flash on here, but the fuse is blown. And definitely I'd rather have it going this way than the way these idiots have it going from the battery cable. So let me see if I can get these rusty wires off this thing, and we'll put in a different solenoid and see if we can get it to crank over. And I think I have a 15 amp fuse somewhere, but for the meantime I'm just going to leave this as is, and we can fix this later. And the battery box, look how rusty this thing is. I have a nice new battery box over here that's ready to go, and what I'm thinking about doing here is just getting the thing to run, power brooming the lawn with it, and then we'll take the handlebars off in the battery box and we're going to paint it. And we'll put the nice used battery box on. That's really good paint. But there's something about this machine. Some of you guys have heard me talk about it before, but it's the newest Gravely I have, and it's the most rusty Gravely I have. And I don't understand that mix, but it is what it is. So we'll get to it. Now, I got another solenoid here, another used one that was just sitting around the garage. And I'm going to bench test this. What I did is I take a battery charger, 12 volt that is, and I got positive on one side with a little jumper wire that I'm going to touch to the top. I got the negative on the base. Now on the output side, what I did is I hooked up my voltmeter to the output side, and I got an alligator clip on the base for the ground and one there. So if I hit this and energize it and we hear it click, it should put 12 volts out. So let's see what happens. Yep, it did. Oh, I only got 6. 9. 6. I could have a bad connection here too. 9.8. It's only getting about 10 volts coming out. But this is a half-ass system, so very well could just... Oh, I think this one might be bad. Ooh, my battery charger didn't like that. Ooh, I'm hitting the vise here and it's grounding out, but anyways, you get the idea. It's only getting about 8 coming out, so I could have a bad ground or something in this rigged up setup, but I don't think I do. I think this one just isn't 100%. Alright, unplug the charger. So originally I had this in my 812, and I couldn't get the 812 to really do anything, and I think that's why. So just for kicks, we'll hook up the one that we took out of the tractor and see what that one does. That's this rust bucket here. It's so pathetic that even the lug coming out of it's bent. Alright, I gotta turn the camera off and we'll hook it up and we'll see what this one does. Alright, I don't know. Let's see what happens. Yeah, this one has 2 volts coming out. 1 volt. 2 volts. So something's screwed up in there. 2.5 volts. So let me see if we can find another used one that's laying around here. These things are expensive to buy. If you got to buy one, you can spend 30 or 40 bucks on one. So if we can find a good used one, this one's going in the recycle pile, we'll be 30 or 40 bucks ahead of the game. Well, here's a used one. Let's see what this one does. I got 10 volts coming out. Oh, this is bad. Oh, I saw 11. Only 5. Huh. $10. We're going to try this one. Let's see if this one works. Yeah, let's see if this one works. I think this will be good. This is a Gravely one. And, you know, it even had wires on it, but we'll see if we can get this one to work. It might be too dark out for me to install it still tonight, but we're going to try it, see what happens. Okay, I've got it all hooked back up, and I don't know. See what happens now, I guess, right? Oh, the carb linkage is frozen, everything. Oh, that's not cool. Oh, let's see what happens. Whew, man, that doesn't smell good. Something's all screwed up with the linkage on the carb here. The butterfly's like frozen. Just put a squirt of carb cleaner in there. Probably water and carb too. All right, this is some carb cleaner. Let's see what happens. Cool. doesn't sound good. Yeah, so it's running perfect. Runs perfect. So all that because of a stupid solenoid an hour and a half later. But you always start simple with your diagnosing and get to the hard stuff last. And battery cable connections are good. Yeah, the battery cable connections are always a good place to start. And, you know, those weren't the problem. Then we went right to the starter, and the starter was frozen up, and there definitely was an issue there, but that wasn't the full problem. And it probably would have released itself if it had enough power going to the motor. Let's face it, it wasn't that bad. So solenoid was the weak link, as usual. Seems like every tractor I have that's outside getting crusty, the solenoids blow on. So moral of the story is that I got to take better care of my equipment and find a way to keep it inside. That's the bottom line here. It's all getting trashed being outside in the rain. And so tomorrow we'll hook up the power broom to this thing and we'll see if we can get it going.